All right. Welcome to This is the World of Award Travel. My name is Jason Steele, and I am tremendously thrilled to have some of the world's top award travel bloggers here with me today. When I started writing about award or started blogging, I saw a lot of really bad advice about award travel. And it kind of inspired me to say, hey, I can do a little bit better. And when I discovered these gentlemen's blogs, it really, everything clicked. I could see that there was a future where I could travel for free and in style. And so we have kind of a dream team here today. So I'm going to introduce these gentlemen very briefly, and then we're going to mix it up. A lot of people spend hundreds of dollars to go to conferences to hear them talk about how to travel for free because they're the world's foremost experts on the subject. But that's not what we're doing here today. What we're doing here today is talking about the practice of award travel blogging, because you guys are bloggers, you guys are financial bloggers. And I've always made the case, every time I come to FinCon, that award travel blogging is kind of the low-hanging fruit of a lot of frugality and personal finance. You know, we could be blogging about, or I could be spending my time clipping coupons and saving 50 cents off of peanut butter, but instead I'm out there collecting miles and points and, taking $10,000 trips in business class or first class with my family. So let me get this started here. First, we'll start with Gary Leff. He's from View from the Wing. He bills himself as a thought leader in travel. Now, Gary's blog was, again, one of the first blogs I started reading when I got into this. He actually started blogging in 2002, and he told me he writes 6 posts a day. I did the math. If that's true, that's over 30,000 posts. And while doing so, he also works as the CFO of a research center. He has a service called Book Your Award. My theory is there's actually several Garys out there. He's cloned himself because I don't know how he does it. He has over 1 million monthly readers, and when he appeared on the Colbert Report, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. It was awesome. We have Darius Dubois from Million Mile Secrets. And again, this is just an amazing blog. He started this in 2011, and he fits well in our FinCon community because he is a CPA and a self-proclaimed finance nerd. And earlier this year, he announced that his site was bought by Bankrate. So he's definitely a very successful blogger. We have Sean Coomers from Miles to Memory, and his philosophy is travel realized. And I love Sean's site because he's not a single guy or a childless guy gallivanting around the world. He travels with his wife and now 2 kids. He travels for a year and a half. That's how he started blogging, which is just amazing as a family traveler myself. I love reading his site. He also serves as the senior editor for The Frequent Miler, which is another amazing site that practically invented the idea of manufactured spending, or at least popularized it. Brad Barrett, we definitely wanted to have someone from our FinCon community, and he started as the author of Richmond Savers. He's also a CPA. But when he wrote a post about Disney for nearly free, it went viral. He got tons of media. He started up a Travel Miles 101 email course, 12,000 readers. And then finally myself, my motto is I'll write for food. Because unlike these gentlemen, I don't have my own real blog property. JasonSteele.com is just links to my other articles that I write for other people. So I'm a freelance blogger. These guys are the experts on how to really have a blog. I just know about writing posts. So 5 years ago, I get a call from some guy, and he says, have you ever heard of a site called The Points Guy? Well, Brian wants you to be his first contributor. And I was like, The Points Guy? You're kidding me? I read that every day. That's awesome. So while I tap through my credit card articles all day long, I really look forward to writing the articles I write for The Points Guy about award travel. To me, that's the fun part of what I do. Formerly, I was a commercially rated pilot and a computer geek. This is a lot more fun than that. So without further ado, I want to ask these guys some pointed questions, again, about the business of award travel blogging, or the practice of award travel blogging, not, how can I go to the Maldives for free tomorrow? Because they're usually talking about that. Today, we got bloggers here. I want to mix it up on that subject. So first thing I want to throw out there is, do you guys think that award or that personal finance bloggers should really be dabbling in award travel? Or should you guys leave it to the pros? And Gary, as probably the most senior pro here, let me throw that to you first, and the rest of you feel free to jump on in.
No, you should not compete against that. No, no. I think that you should follow the things that you find interesting and that make sense to you. So, read what folks have to write. If it's a natural extension of your site, then sure. Miles are a proprietary currency. They're not fundamentally different than any private issued currency. They just airlines issue miles, banks issue points, hotels issue points. There's no independent central bank. You can figure out from your own backgrounds what that means and offer some pretty good advice, and there are great opportunities in it. I just think it's a function of whether it's a natural extension of what you do in your personal experience, what makes sense to you analytically, and the extent to which you're able to share it. So for some people it will make sense, and for others it will be completely foreign, and it would be hard to make that transition.
You guys disagree or agree? Or?
Yeah, I agree. Readers or consumers are bombarded with loyalty programs. It's become so popular for every company to have their loyalty program. So naturally, if it fits within your readership and within your wheelhouse to write about it, it is something that you can provide benefit with. But there are travel rewards programs specifically can be a little bit more complicated. So it can be a little. It pays to really be focused on targeting the programs, the benefits that would benefit your readership instead of getting focusing on the wrong areas.
So I'll add to that you should do it if it's something you do because you like doing it and it's something you've actually lived and experienced, as opposed to doing it because it seems like it might be profitable. And I'll give you my experience. So at one point I wanted to be a tax attorney. I liked reading fine print. I liked finding the loopholes. I liked finding an angle that others hadn't found out. And I didn't pursue that. And I think when I discovered airline loyalty programs and hotel loyalty programs, I kind of got that same thrill that there's tons of fine print, but to me it was exciting being able to read that and try and figure out how I could use them to my advantage. And with that mindset, I got into using miles and points to travel. I think it's completely different if that didn't interest me and I thought I'd do it just because it would make me money. I think it would become another job then. So I think there's a natural similarity between a lot of personal finance, that everyone is thrifty, everyone wants to get a very good deal, everyone wants to make their money go further. So I think there's a lot of similarities. So I'm excited that you guys are here, and I think you should explore it. But like others have said, it might not fit for everyone else. You might have a very different angle than someone else.
Yeah. Can I jump in?
Sure, jump on in.
Yeah, I'll kind of keep the theme going here. I am a FinCon representative. 2 years ago, I was sitting here in New Orleans with a little personal finance blog called richmondsavers.com. And, now 2 years later, I'm sitting here on this panel with this illustrious group of travel bloggers. So, I think that's the story of, follow your passion, just like anything with your blogs. For me, it's always been frugality, and it's, quickly delved into this travel rewards concept that's just been amazing for our family. And, follow your passion. So, we blogged about, like Jason said before, about a trip to Disney World. For many travel bloggers, that's kind of like a ho-hum type thing. But for my family, that was, taking 2 kids and, my parents and my in-laws, so 8 of us. It was this amazing, 3-generation trip. And, we did it essentially for free. I mean, we spent $100 or thereabouts. So, I blogged about that, and it quickly caught fire. And, that was an amazing thing. So, that's kind of led me here. So I would say absolutely, if this is interesting to you, and I know I recognize plenty of faces of people I've emailed with who want to do this. And if it's interesting to you, it's interesting to your audience.
Okay. So, as you're diving into award travel blogging, the real meat of it on the business end for you guys is the fact that a lot of money has been made by award travel bloggers through credit card affiliate links. But this appears to be getting much harder to do for new bloggers. So I want your opinion as businessmen. Has this ship sailed, or is this still a viable way to monetize content? And what are the other areas at work? affiliate links to things other than credit cards. Obviously, Gary has booked your award, but other service providing, other advertising. Maybe Brad, you can address that since you have one of the newer blogs here.
Yeah, I mean,
Start.
it's definitely a challenging environment. There's no question about it. It's very difficult to break into the world of credit card affiliate links. So, and it's getting more challenging by the day. So, I don't want to paint a terrible picture here and say don't do it, but it is challenging. But I'm a case in point of it's possible. Travel Miles 101, my new site didn't exist on January 1st of last year. And now it's a pretty successful site, so it's definitely doable, but challenging. And I would say there definitely are other avenues. I mean, we in all candor, we have not explored that as thoroughly as we should. So a significant portion of our revenue is from credit card affiliate links. But programs like Personal Capital, which I know many of you guys use personally and talk about on your blogs, that's a nice thing because it helps people track their credit cards, their credit card due dates. So that's a very logical option. And I'm sure some of the other guys with huge amounts of traffic can talk about ads and that type of thing. So I'll turn it over to them.
Any other thoughts on? Has affiliate links sailed for a new blogger?
So before dropping into the question of credit card affiliate links, I think at a higher level, the issue is having a readership, having an audience that that is valuable to advertisers, to opportunities. If you have something unique to say and develop that readership, that is a valuable thing. There will be revenue opportunities attached to that. It doesn't have to be just credit cards. Now, some sites, Darius' site was incredible in that it was very successful very quickly. In my own case, it was, after a year, I'm seeing 500 readers a day, and after, it was like 3 years before I'm seeing 1,000 readers a day. I think it was, 2 years before I had an ad up on the site, and it was earning like $40 a week. It was, pre-Google ads. It was, blog ads would sell for $40 on my site, and then it was 6 years before I made $250 in a month on it. And I was doing it because I loved it, but at the same time, I'm genuinely embarrassed when I look back at the things that I wrote in 2003 and 2004 because I hadn't found a voice. And so, traffic has been much, much stronger, starting about 7 years in and consistently since then. And interestingly, in the last year, even just direct sold ads that have no monetization based on action, for me, have roughly doubled in the amount that they're paying per reader. Because there's an audience that's that's large enough to be direct sold to advertisers and valuable enough that advertisers are willing to pay for. So I think basically the economics of it comes down to whether or not you have a lot of people reading your site, and if you do, whatever avenue you take, whether it's affiliate links for credit cards or something else, or business opportunities where somebody might pay for courses or a service that you offer, or just display ads are going to be much more lucrative. And so I think that the real opportunity is in developing something that people want to continue to read and come back to. And once that happens, then revenue opportunities are there. It kind of doesn't work so well if you start the other way around and say, here's a revenue opportunity I'm going after. At least it didn't for me. I think that that might be a different experience in Darius' case because, like I say, he had a very clear voice from the get-go and developed that readership quickly. So it's it's a different experience.
I actually agree with Gary. So when I started the blog in May 2011, I was very clear that it's going to be a test, and I was not going to pursue any revenue opportunities just because I felt that would distract from the branding, from developing a voice, as Gary said, and seeing if people actually wanted to read what I wrote. So for the first, 10 months, there were absolutely no affiliate links or any type of revenue generation on the blog. And it's only at that point that I realized that, yes, this can be commercially viable. But at the same time, I didn't want to run it like a business. So what I mean by that is that, yes, I want to be profitable. I want to make a reasonable return. But at the same time, profit maximization is not my only goal. So I want to have content that's relatable. I want to be able to share information that readers actually like and give them something of value, as opposed to just trying to squeeze out the last dollar. That's always been my philosophy in whatever I've done. And it's worked very well for me. So I would agree with Gary that write because you like writing. And I think there are a lot of niches that are still available. There might not be a lot of them, but I think there are a lot of angles. And I think that authenticity and integrity attracts a lot of readers. And I think if you can find that way of connecting with your readers one-on-one, I think that will build traction and will build momentum, and you can then consider monetizing. I think there still are ways to monetize. So maybe you won't get direct links from the banks immediately, but creditcards.com has an affiliate program, and you can get links through them. Advertising, as Gary said, that's increased, and if you have a sufficient amount of traffic, it could be enough to substitute for your income. Jason mentioned courses and other ways where you could charge a fee and get people in. So I think there are lots of different ways to monetize. My sense is that credit cards have been the primary way of monetizing, just because maybe it's the easiest, and I tend to be lazy. So maybe that's why I kind of focus a lot on that.
Of course, it's a natural fit. As I've discovered in my
Yeah.
career, credit cards and travel overlap quite a bit. Sean,
But I think there's still opportunities available.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunity. The banks certainly have tightened with the links, especially direct links. Having transitioned my blog from a travel blog to a Miles and Points blog in 2013, and it grew fairly quickly, but still I'm not able to get direct links with a pretty significant amount of traffic. Had I done that in 2011 and had that traffic just a couple years later, I would have direct links. Of course, depending on the amount of conversions and all the other back-end stuff. But as Dorea said, it all comes down to your audience and how engaged they are with your content and putting your audience first and your readers first. In today's environment, if you're really looking at credit card affiliates, those creditcards.com links are probably the best option for most bloggers. And to really be successful with those, you need to have an engaged audience, because they're not just clicking a link directly to a card application. They're going to have to go through a little work to apply. So they're going to have to be invested in your blog and in the information that you provided and the value that you provided to them. So I think that everything they said about the various other sources of revenue is important. But if you're talking about travel rewards, credit cards are going to be a part of that. And if you're getting into it just for the first time, or you're really taking that angle and you don't have direct links, you're going to, like they said, building the audience is the primary thing. I too never worried about. I blogged the first year without making really any money at all. Barely covered my costs. Occasionally, somebody would apply for a credit card and I'd make a little money, and I started at 100 readers a day, and within a year I was at a couple thousand readers a day, and then it grew from there. So I never really focused on I need to convert. I just sort of focused on doing right by my readers and providing value. And then once they saw that value, then they were more engaged, and that helped with the credit cards and other things.
So the basic reason why it's gotten difficult to get direct credit card links is the CFPB. So the banks are scared of anyone that they're paying to do marketing of their cards, right? That someone's going to say something that runs afoul, that's either inaccurate, for instance, that misdescribes an offer, where consumers are applying based on incorrect information, and so the banks all build a system where they're reading everything, and they're making sure that nothing that's said is false, because they are afraid of really big fines. And so sites that are smaller, that aren't generating a lot of applications, don't cover the fixed cost of the bank making sure that there's not going to be any substantial risk to them from the CFPB. And so that's where these intermediaries come in, sites that provide templated credit card application pages or lists, because all they're doing is they're watching those sites to make sure that those are accurate. They're generating a lot of volume. You're able to link to those sites, and that protects the bank. But if what you want are those direct links, what you do is you work with those intermediaries. You demonstrate that you understand how to be accurate and not risk really big fines. And you have enough of an audience where you can go to proactively to the banks and say, here's what I can likely deliver in terms of a number of applications a month. And if that's attractive, then the bank will bring you in. It's just that they need to know up front that they're not going to be wasting a lot of resources to protect themselves against fines for very little benefit on their end. So even there, again, it comes back to building the traffic that's going to be worthwhile, whether it's to a bank or any other advertiser or any other revenue opportunity. Right, you just have to be able, and you need to be, understand from the perspective of whoever it is that you're working with on the revenue opportunity, what do they see as the benefit and what do they see as the risk, and how are you able to offer, minimum risk and maximum opportunity for your site.
Yeah. Gary brings up a really interesting point about how the affiliate networks and the banks kind of consider us as travel bloggers or just bloggers who have credit card affiliate links on their site as part of their advertisers, as a representative of them. And I don't know about you guys, but my hair kind of stands on end when I hear that, because I don't consider myself to be an advertiser for the bank. I consider myself a writer, perhaps even a journalist. And my loyalty is to the reader, not the bank. And the banks, the travel companies, they do things we disagree with all the time. And to what extent are we scared to call them out because they think that we're advertising for them, not covering them more as journalists? Anyone?
I think that's a blame the lawyers issue. So I think the reason why banks are that cautious is that if I write something about a Chase product and a reader, say, applies for it and things go awry, who's the reader going to sue? Are they going to sue me? Are they going to sue folks on this panel? Or are they going to go after the deeper pockets, which is the multi-billion-dollar bank? So I think in that environment, the banks tend to be very cautious about folks who do marketing on their behalf, because there could be some sort of liability that will flow back to them. So that's my sense. That's why we have these restrictions. To answer Jason's question, yeah, of course it sucks that sometimes, oftentimes we want to say things, but maybe we've got to be more mindful of how it will be presented should it become public, right? So oftentimes, say, for example, Chase's 524 rule, they kind of restrict the amount of cards you can get approved for in the last 2 years. And I think literally every blogger writes about how terrible it is, right? So it's not that we're always saying how good the banks are and why you should get their cards. I think we present a balanced viewpoint as to when rules don't work. Say, for example, today there was a new American Express Starwood Hotels card, and there's a lot of talk around whether 2 free nights is as good as getting the points. So it's not as if we are just saying, hey, 2 free nights, go sign up for the card.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I mean, from the bank's perspective, they would view you as a partner. They don't want to partner with somebody that is truly sticking it to them. On the other hand, though, even for legal reasons, they take a pretty darn hands-off approach when it comes to editorials. So I trashed blatantly the Amex Centurion card. I think it's a garbage product. I mean, at the price point, right? So it's basically an Amex Platinum with a few extra benefits for $2,000 more a year and a $7,500 upfront fee. I think it's crazy, and I've said so. Barclay Card has their luxury card products, which are heavy gold, up to 2% rebate cards for $1,000, right? This is insane. I say that with Chase, the IHG Rewards Club card, hotel loyalty card, it's a great card to get. It's worth it for a bonus. It's a great card to have, but I'd never put $1 of spending on this card. I think that would be idiotic. And the banks will never say anything negative about that, even if they wanted to, because once they intervene editorially, they're telling the CFPB that they exercise editorial control, and then they really are on the hook for anything you say. So it's one area where, in fact, I mean, the banks don't, or at least in my case, have never reached out or given me a hard time over a position I took, a recommendation that I made, or something that I've said was not desirable. And I suspect that even if there's zero respect there, or they felt like they could, there would be downside risk to them in doing that too. So it's not something that worries me.
Any thoughts, or it's okay either way? Okay, so moving on here, one of the interesting issues coming up in award travel blogging as it's become more popular is it's kind of getting mainstreamed. I turn on the TV, if they're talking about travel, I might see Gary or I might see Brian on TV now, and it's like, people ask me what I do, and I mention the Points Guy, and they're like, oh yeah, I know the Points Guy, and it's like stunning to me that these people who were kind of only known to me and my fellow award travel geeks a few years ago are now kind of mainstream. And in fact, Darius' site has actually gotten a little bit of criticism over this because his site is very accessible to new users. And I know people who are not real hardcore travel geeks who read and enjoy his site. And so what I want to know is what are your thoughts on the mainstreaming of award travel? Are all these newbies out there kind of spoiling our fun and ruining the deals? Or is it just nice to share our hobby and of course, grow the readership? Let me throw that out to you first, Darius.
So there's a Buddhist saying that goes like this, that with one candle, you can light 1,000 candles. So if the more people that do this, I think it's better that more people will travel, you get new experiences. I don't see it as competition. In fact, I have, for the last 5 years, every Friday I interview a new blogger, and it's kind of his or her day to just shine and show the world what he or she has to offer. And for me, that I get a lot of happiness doing that in just being able to support the community, getting folks who are new to this. It's kind of like when you take your first trip, the high is tremendous. And I think we should have more high people in the world.
I live in Colorado, so what do I do? Can't argue with that. Anyone? Is this too mainstream, Sean? Is everyone jumping in and there's no more good deals left because the moment they're publicized, they're withdrawn?
Well, my personal philosophy is very similar to his in that I don't, I look at the pie is big enough for everybody, so I think that the more the better. But in reality, there is, if you're looking at award space or you're looking at airline awards, there's only so many seats. If you're looking at hotel rooms, there's only so many rooms. So that the more people that get into award travel specifically, the tougher it is to find space, or the tougher it is to maneuver within the different programs. And then when it comes to deals, we've certainly seen that this last year, they tend to die a lot quicker. But does that mean that we should keep things secret and push everybody and create this secret society where nobody comes in? No, it's just the way it is. And ultimately, like I said, my personal philosophy is the more the merrier. But I do recognize that there are some impacts as this goes more mainstream on both me personally and my readership, and I'm a little mindful of that as I write about certain things. But in the end, what can we do? If people are interested, let's share it with them.
Let's satisfy that demand. Yeah, let's share our hobby. Sound good to you, Brad?
Yeah, absolutely. I think unfortunately there is a lot of negativity in the online world of travel rewards. I know, Flyer Talk. Many of you, go to that forum certainly, but how we looked at this and how we created Travel Miles 101, essentially, not to bring it back to my side, but is we wanted it to be a very positive and inclusive place. And, I think people need that helping hand to get started, because it can be very confusing at the outset. So, I believe, like Sean said, the pie is big enough for everybody. Most people aren't looking to book that award seat to the Maldives. Most people just want to take a vacation with their family, and if they could take one vacation a year using rewards points, that's a huge success for them. So I think the pie is certainly big enough, and I think this is really a wonderful hobby. So that's my view on it.
Yeah. Well, Brad brings up a certain topic that needles me a little bit, is the negativity out there. And I was writing about personal finance, frugality, credit cards, and for years, and I barely remember getting a negative comment. And then when I started writing about travel, all of a sudden, people were out for blood when I had even the slightest perceived inaccuracy. And so maybe you guys could address this a little bit. I think that most of you guys no longer really actively post in Flyer Talk. I don't either. because of that that negativity out there. Where does this come from? Why are we entering a lion's den when we write about travel that maybe we're not when we write about investments or frugality or other personal finance topics?
So, first, I'm not going to offer a distinction between travel and personal finance, but at a certain level, it's the internet, and you do have to recognize that you're putting yourself out there online. I started my own blog in 2002 when all of my friends were starting blogs. I'd lived in D.C. for 18 years. They were political blogs. I didn't have anything unique to say in the political space, really, that wasn't already being said, and so I was just sharing something that was different in my own life from all of theirs at the beginning, right? But I don't think that the vitriol is especially worse in travel than if I were writing about, and I do occasionally write once there's a sort of crossover between Donald Trump's hotels, right, or the Trump card privileges program. It's the only hotel loyalty program where you get points when you don't cross a border, right? No, the great thing about the Trump Hotel in D.C. that just opened, a week ago, right, is that come January, Trump's going to be able to go up to the top of the hotel. It's the old post office building in D.C., right? So it's right across from the White House. He'll be able to go up to the top of the hotel and wave at Hillary. So there is this sort of crossover, but there's not any more vitriol, I don't think, than look, all you have to do is mention Hillary Clinton and cattle futures. Okay, you're going to get a lot of wingnuts come out on either side. Vince Foster, birth certificates, whatever.
But what was amazing to me was that without it going anywhere near politics, I would get this vitriol, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm not talking about the Middle East or abortion or something. I'm talking about travel and points and miles. I don't even go anywhere near politics, and yet there was still this real hatred out there, and it was stunning to me because, like I said, I didn't encounter it when talking about investments or saving money on whatever.
Yeah. So two things. There's a New Yorker cartoon that I really like, and it's got this dog in front of a keyboard and a computer, and he's typing away, and the caption says, on the internet, no one knows that you're a dog. So I think a lot of the internet comments, I don't think any of those folks would say that face to face. I think there's a sense of disconnection that you get online where maybe it brings out, I'm guessing there's always some sort of need in the comment, however vitriolic it might be. Maybe it's a need for support, maybe it's a need for connection, maybe it's a need for respect, and maybe they're expressing it very tragically. And it's a lot easier to do that on the internet than otherwise. And I guess the other thing is that maybe in personal finance, I think there's a shared sense of camaraderie that there's more for everyone. For some reason, in the travel space, sometimes I think there's a sense of loss aversion. So I'm sure you guys know what that
Tragedy
is.
of the commons, almost. There's a finite number of awards.
Yeah.
And we're all battling for them, but you are telling people how to get the awards that I should be booking.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of I've been doing this before you were born, and you shouldn't be sharing this on the internet where everyone can share it. So there's another website I follow. It's called Chowhound, and it's all about restaurants and finding the best restaurants. And occasionally there, someone will recommend a restaurant, and then there'll be a whole spiel of, oh, now you shouldn't do it. It's going to turn into a yuppie hangout. So I think it's somewhat inherent to the internet in a way as well.
And is it even true that in personal finance there's not vitriol? When I see sites talk about frugality and what's worth paying for and what's not, and there are these different embedded assumptions about whether your goal ought to be to retire quickly versus to have tremendous enjoyment in your work itself, so that you wouldn't want to retire, versus working to be able to enjoy things. And there are these different visions for oneself that people come to discussions with, and they often can't possibly imagine how anybody else could see the world differently than they do, and so they are critical of people's consumption choices and savings decisions that are about conflicts of values and vision rather than about conflicts of fact. Not that I'm particularly embedded in this community, but when I see some of these sites, bigger sites, lots big comment sections, I often do see conflict. And often that conflict does come from people starting from their own perspective, either what benefits them, what they believe in, and seeing something that conflicts with that without trying to understand where that other person's coming from, and that there isn't this the starting point that most people have, that people who disagree with you aren't evil or stupid, that they might actually have something to say and that you could find some common ground. I think that's kind of common on to the internet, though, and maybe it's more pronounced in certain communities, but I also suspect that it's a very small subset of people who are uniquely vocal. It's a very small subset of people that comment on my site at all relative to the total readers, and so I don't worry about it so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all get to that stage where we stop worrying. Brad, you have a site that talks about frugality with Richmond Savers, but at the same time you're doing an award travel site. Do you see a contrast between the vitriol? I don't deny that it exists outside of Points and Miles, but is there a significant difference there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it personally on my sites, but I have seen it generally.
Okay.
So I would say, especially for most of the people sitting in the audience here, FinCon is a very happy group, right? Like we can all admit, this is just a wonderful conference. We're all friends. There's no negativity at all. But when I've noticed some of these aspects of the travel rewards world, there definitely is that negativity. So I think it was that stark contrast for me, just as an overall general viewpoint. So yeah, personally, I haven't noticed it on my sites, but I've seen it, and I was taken aback by it. But to Gary's point, I think there certainly is negativity in the personal finance world. I know I can point to two of my friends here who were mentioned in, I think, Yahoo. For I retired early at 34 or 40 or whatever it was, and you read the comments and it is the cesspool of the world, right? Like you can't imagine these people exist, not less like comment on the internet. But so I mean, there certainly is that to a degree in the wider world. I think I look at it from the FinCon perspective, which is this happy little utopian community, and maybe that's naive, frankly.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, and I've gone to the stage of acceptance where I think I've had a successful post when I have 50 comments saying, wow, this is great stuff, and 50 comments say, wow, you're a jerk. That's a successful post to me, and if there's no comments at all, I really feel like I failed.
Just to add to that, I actually love the negative comments because I love it when people do my marketing for me for free.
Yeah.
It just spurs discussion, and the comment count goes up, and more people click on the post. So, yeah, right, all the bad stuff you want.
So we've all seen this mainstream, or even bloggers will write this stuff, that's at best useless. I love the one, to save money on luggage fees, pack less. Buy tickets a certain day of the week, the magic words that get you into first class that you just whisper to the gate agent. What are the
Rumpelstiltskin.
What's that?
Rumpelstiltskin.
Don't tell anyone. Okay, so what are the biggest mistakes? I mean, I'm not looking for specific examples, but like big picture, what are the big mistakes that you see when it comes to award travel blogging by those who maybe like many in the room don't normally focus on travel? And what would you say are the essentials of a good award post? And let me throw that out to Sean here first.
Yeah, I mean, the essentials of a good award post is going to be, first it has to be clear what the purpose of it is. So what are you trying to convey to the reader? But it has to be simple to understand, really get down to what you're writing about, how it benefits the reader, and then what they need to do to do it. So in the case of how do you secretly get into first class, which doesn't exist, but or at least it doesn't work for me. I've tried every combination of words in the dictionary, but you just want to. For me, I'm a very clear writer, so I have a voice. I try to write as I would talk, and I try to make it clear that I'm just explaining what's going on. But I want, at the end of the day, for people to be able to read the first sort of part of the post, the end of the post, and to get the idea of what it is that they're going to get from it. And then they can go deeper within the post to get more details if that's what they want. So that's really on the very basic level. That's what I try to go for, especially because some topics are a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I definitely think clarity is essential. I think Darius does a wonderful job of this, and he takes some ribbing. I don't know if you're aware of it, for the circles and the arrows and such. he has these wonderful pictures that everything is clear. It's, you'd have to be brain dead not to follow it. It's just, follow the pictures, right? But that helps people, right? This is confusing. And, I noticed, I just started using the tool Skitch, which many of you might use. I'm not sure what Darius uses for his circles and arrows, but that's what I use for mine. So, and it's been great. And people have really responded to these articles. And, frankly, they're pretty easy to create. Just make a screenshot, make a couple of circles and arrows, and that's more valuable in a lot of senses than a 2,000-word post pontificating about, the wonders of award travel. People just want to know, how do I get the points? How do I book the travel? So I think clarity is the absolute essential.
So to jump on to Brad, so if you want magic words, I think I got 5 of them, which is what's in it for you. So it's not what's in it for me when I write the post, it's what's in it for the reader. So just picture the average reader. So I think when we write the post, we think, hey, everyone's going to read this, and they're going to spend 10 minutes, and then they're going to go and do it. But in reality, maybe Bob's at the office, and he's got 5 minutes between the meeting when he has to meet his boss, and he just finished his coffee, and he's surfing Million Mile Secrets, right? So he's not got that level of attention. He's not got that focus. He's just skimming through stuff. So just make it easy. Tell them what it is right at the top. As Brad said, make it as easy as possible and with a sense of what's in it for me when I read it, not what's in it for me when I write it.
Okay. One of the things I want to know is, how do you guys find out about all these travel deals before I do? Because I'm always scanning everything, looking everywhere I can, and yet, this morning Gary tells me something that I had no idea was out there. And where's the original kernel coming from? Where's your primary source research coming from? Gary.
Yeah, that's the answer.
He's not going to tell us.
No. I subscribe to every email. I read every blog that is even tangentially related. I travel a lot. I talk to people in the industry. And I have 14 years under my belt to have context and history. And I remember, yesterday when I mentioned a deal with a Delta and Hilton, right? Nothing particularly to go run out and do, but as so much as I remember, that they've done this in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 at the same time. I can go back and see what did I write then about it. What's the broader context between the relationship between these, partners. Or if there's a deal, I'll go and just read the fine print. And so, a couple days ago, okay, what's the method of entering with a postcard with a 6th rental car to get free rental cars? And is there more of an opportunity than actually paying for rental cars and entering their contest that way? So you read a lot and have context to understand what you're reading, and read everything. And then, when you find something somewhere else, I think it's also important to try to acknowledge that. Say where when I started in blogging, these things were conversations. People would write posts in response to other people's posts, and so you'd have a conversation. And that was the idea of the track back. You could see, what were reactions to a particular article that other people had, and this is net positive for readers. It's respectful. That I don't worry that somehow somebody might find another site besides mine, because people read a lot of things, and hopefully I'm adding some value that they're going to keep coming back. But I'll try to acknowledge where I first saw something as well too.
Yeah, you're never going to be the first person to find every deal, so you're going to find deals other places, and always should credit your sources. But like Gary said, a lot of being able to find travel deals before other people is being able to recognize when something's a deal. Seeing a promotion come across your screen, being able to read the fine print and quickly see the value in that, and then being able to, as they talked about before, share that value quickly with your readers in a way that they understand when they're skimming really quick, and then it sort of goes in that circle.
But you don't have to be first.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to be first. No, no, you don't have to be first. You have to. No, like you said, when you're writing the post, though, whether you're first, you could see a deal on another site. Your history, just as you said, your knowledge is what is going to make your post have value, because you're going to be able to share why that deal is good, why it's beneficial to your readers, not just, 1,000 free points, but why those 1,000 free points are good for you, and why I think personally, why my opinion is important. You, the reader, why you should come to my site to learn why this deal is good and why you should trust what I think about that. And then over time, you do that, and then the readers also will send you deals. They'll find something and they'll be excited to share it with you. And so this sort of system sort of develops over time.
It's a lot of hard work, so you should just
Yes.
read our blogs.
It is a lot of hard work.
So I want to wrap it up with one more topic because I want to have time for some questions. But I want to look at the future here and what you gentlemen think, not about award travel necessarily, but about the future of award travel blogging. Because, it's very easy to look out on devaluations and crackdowns on MS and things like that and say it's all doom and gloom. And we could all remember a time when this deal or that was better. I'm a more optimistic person. I look at, transfer partners and sign-up bonuses are being as good as they've ever been. Is it doom and gloom out there? Or, do you think the more challenging environment will make award travel content more valuable? And, will more deals come up with the next economic downturn when companies are more hungry for our business? Jump in, whoever wants.
Yeah, I definitely think the next economic downturn will bring more deals. That's something that will happen when that happens. But you mentioned the points guy and the audience, the mainstream audience that site has grown. I just happened to look at the Facebook page yesterday, over 1.3 million likes for the points guy on Facebook. So award travel is, like you said, mainstream. So the audience is there. That's a huge audience. Just saying 1.3 million people on Facebook and then everywhere else. I don't know what the traffic numbers are, but it's a huge, huge site, as are Gary and Darius' sites. So there's plenty of audience there. So there's plenty of opportunity. And more importantly, if it's so mainstream, then so many people are interested. We're going to get more opportunity. The banks are going to continue to innovate. They're going to find new partners. They're going to improve their programs. They're going to want to make themselves better to market to customers. And so we're going to see new products. Things are going to change. We saw an amazing card launched a month ago, the Sapphire Reserve from Chase, that really was, really got everybody excited. And it was something that was different from what we've seen in many ways. So, yeah, I think that to say that the end is over and that the banks are that it's all doom and gloom is really a sort of a really negative outlook, because I think things will change, things will improve, the economy will certainly have a lot to do with it in the end as well. So.
The only people in the country looking for an economic downturn right here. What are your thoughts, Gary or Darius?
So fundamentally, there's something about travel that speaks to people they're interested in and they care about. And the loyalty programs around travel aren't getting less complicated. The technology, it often amazes me that sometimes people are able to actually travel from A to B, given the challenges that I have with airlines on a virtually daily, if not, or at least weekly basis, with tickets that get screwed up, with awards where segments drop out of a reservation. And so, as things get more and more complicated, there's a need for people that do understand what's going on to serve as a guide or a helpful resource and explain to the rest of the world what's happening. So I don't see any sort of a downturn in interest in or the need for discussion of these things in some media. I'm not going to suggest that the blogging format is necessarily the format that in mobile 10 years from now is going to be how people are getting their information. Maybe it will, maybe it won't be. That's not my, not my particular place to opine on. But the notion that interest in good travel content would somehow subside seems pretty strange to me, actually.
Well, tomorrow I'm having an hour-long presentation on deciphering the excursionist perk from United, which I still haven't figured out yet. But until then, let me open this up to questions. I'll repeat the questions so that we can get them on the mic, but please speak up. Anyone? Yes.
How have your teams evolved over the beginning of your blog to now? Is it still just one person? Is it grown from one person to 10?
Well, the question is, how has their teams evolved as they've gone on over the last few years in terms of staff. I mean, I know I was the first contributor for the Points Guy. I think they have about 15 or 20 people there now. Gary, I think you're solo, aren't you?
It's not my full-time job, and I'm the only one that handles everything, which, if you read it, you know that I don't do a very good job spell checking. I just write something and publish it, but it's basically it's me. It's something very personal. What I do defies everything that I believe about the theory of the firm, but I continue to do it the way that I did it from the start, which is just me.
So I'm very lucky to have a very wonderful team. So I think there are now 7 or 8 of us, and actually we have Scott, the managing editor. Where out, Scott? Over there. So it's no longer a solo gig for me, and I'm very glad it's not, because I got burnt out. Like, I was really excited about it. Like, I would have an idea at 3 in the morning, and I have a home office. So I would it takes me 5 seconds to commute, and I would stay up till 6 and right. So I love that, but after a while, I think I lost my creativity. So, and I also like having people who are smarter than me. So they go out and find the deals, and they write, and they manage the blog. So I'm very lucky that way.
In my case, I have worked with a blogging network that does all the technical stuff. So I don't handle any of the ad sales or technical back end, but I do 98% of the writing on my site. I do have a couple contributors who come in usually once a month or something when they want. So I don't. They're not on set schedules. We'll be expanding a little bit soon. I sort of like Gary, my blog is very much about me, although I'm thinking of exploring maybe widening the brand and making it more about the brand and less about me as the person writing. So, so I'm kind of at that cusp where it's going to start growing beyond just...
Yeah, so my site, Travel Miles 101, it's me and Alexi, my partner who just walked in the back there. So we handle the vast majority of the content and most of the back-end work. We recently just hired a community manager, so we have a Facebook group where we have about 3,500 people, and there's probably 50 to 100 posts a day, and it just got overwhelming. So one thing that we did was we found basically the most active user, someone who just loved being part of our community. And we asked her if she'd be interested in coming on as a community manager. So it's worked incredibly well. I've had to dial back how much she works, actually. It's crazy. But yeah, so I think that's a good suggestion is, find someone passionate in your community and see if they can work with you.
I think we have time for 2 more questions. Yes.
So with the reserve card that came out, it seemed like there was preferential treatment where affiliate links or paid links. How do you guys feel about that? Where you get a lot of content, but not being able to, outside of ads, not be able to be paid for the direct affiliate link because it has to.
So the question is about the new reserve card and what paid versus unpaid links.
Yeah, exactly.
Real quick.
So my philosophy is that if I write about the best offer for the reader, on balance, regardless of whether I'm getting paid, so I wasn't getting paid for the reserve, I didn't have direct links, on balance over time, I'll make the reasonable profitability target that I want. Would I like to have those links? Of course I would, but I have to realize that banks have marketing budgets as well, and they have their own marketing strategies. So yeah, I would like it, but I'm not going to withhold that information just because I don't. And I think it actually hurts the folks who would withhold that information when it's available elsewhere, because it's the internet and anyone can go and figure things out.
I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I mean, I genuinely believe that. I love my job, which is why I still do it. I have a site that started as a hobby and a passion that also generates income. I do other things too. And, I travel the world in a way that I never would have imagined when I was a kid. I have, because I have multiple income streams, it's tremendously freeing. If any particular opportunity doesn't work the way in my ideal world it would, that's fine, right? Like Darius, I would love links that pay me for things that I'm writing about anyway all the time. But there's no universe in which I'm not coming out tremendously ahead in life, right? So I've got no position to complain.
Maybe we just, unless you guys have something groundbreaking, maybe we just get one more question before we break up. Yes.
Are direct relationships with banks work? Right now, I deal with the intermediary for a credit card search form that I created, and it's paying enough to keep them happy. I can't even imagine dealing with Chase and Amex and all the rules and all the different changes that they always require. I don't know if you guys who do have direct links had went through an intermediary company first and then went to the direct links, and if so, if the amount of work and hassle and pain of going to direct links was worth your time, stress, and effort.
So the question is direct links for credit card affiliates versus going through an intermediary. Quick opinion on that, gentlemen.
I think direct links are easier. There are fewer rules. I never get nastygrams from the banks pretty much about anything. It's really not hard. You just have to not say anything false and make sure that your links are up to date, that you're not describing an offer, here's a link, and they don't like dead links with that are bad customer experiences. So I think it's actually easier. Is it worth it? It's more lucrative. It's easier for people to actually apply when there's only one hop instead of two. I don't see any downside to it. Yeah, I'd rather work directly, know what's going on, rather than be playing a game of telephone with two cups and a string.